back to boxing talk. We're going to talk about MVP promotions, Paulie Malignaggi, and the Ali Act in that order. So MVP Promotions is run by Jake Paul. He's been looking for the next American black slick fighter that is a diamond in the rough who hasn't really been signed by a big promoter. He's been the last time he had put on some skinny guy who was also trained under Bomac on his card to try and build him up into being this next thing. That kid got knocked out like he was dangling on the ropes, right? And he was out. So last night I saw something on YouTube. It happened last night, but it's on YouTube now, where they had found another American slick black fighter, another skinny guy, right? And he put him up against like another Mexican guy who was slow, had some technical flaws, you know? And it was like the black dude hit the Mexican guy in the chin. The Mexican guy actually went to sleep for a minute. Not for a minute, for a second, right? Hit the ground, woke up, got up. Now, people complain about the refereeing from Lawrence Cole because the Mexican guy started holding and he got deducted 2 points for holding after he got hurt. Now, that's actually the right call for boxing. Why? Because you're supposed to get docked by that. Now, the issue here is like when you're pulling some guy down, right? You're trying, because you're out on your feet, you're trying to, what is it called? It's like trying to zap his energy from hitting you or whatever it is, right? And to bring and not get hit instead of taking a knee, right? So you take the knee, you get 1 point docked, right? But and then you try to pull the guy down to like zap his energy a little bit so he can't go all out on your head, right? And so go all out on your head. So then, yeah, you're supposed to get a point taken away because getting a point taken away from holding or taking a knee is actually better than getting knocked down again, right? Because you get knocked down, you get a point taken away, but you've been knocked down again, so you're even more out on your feet, right? And so the right call was actually made by Lawrence Cole, even though he was protecting the slick black American fighter again, even in that one. Even though I believe the Mexican guy was also American, right? And so he gets knocked out. He's dangling on the ropes twice, right? Which is hilarious because you know the kind of fighter that MVP Promotions is trying to push. You know, so it's kind of hilarious to see that happen, especially with the Mexicans versus blacks. It's always been a racial thing. Some people point at my channel saying that you're pushing race or whatever. I'm not the one doing it. It's what sells, right? And so you're talking about the promoters doing that, even a Jake Paul. Now, going into Paulie Malignaggi into bare knuckle boxing. He announced that he was going into bare knuckle boxing again, like, I don't know, a year ago or something like that. And it's sad because, like, he should have consulted with his community or even the people that he talked to whether or not it was a good idea to go back into bare knuckle boxing, because most people would tell him no, right? I didn't say a word on this because he had already made his decision to go into bare knuckle boxing, but I know some of these channels watch my little shitty YouTube channel, right? And they do take into consideration what I say. And so when you're looking at Paulie versus Artem Lobov of the UFC, when Paulie fought Artem beat the shit out of Paulie. That was years ago. And it happened because the first punch that Paulie threw with his bare knuckles, he broke his hands with both his hands. The first punch he threw with either hand broke his hands, or they just injured his bones immediately, and he just took a beating from there. His face was all cut up. I even trolled him, right, by putting that clip of him talking about, like, I only got hit with one clean shot, Everybody trolled him. It wasn't just me. Everybody trolled him. I only got hit with one clean shot. He's sitting there. His face is all busted the fuck up because he got hit with many, many shots, right? And a lot of times, a lot of these boxers have never been in a street fight. Getting hit bone on bone is it's pretty crazy, you know? It's pretty crazy. So some people say, oh, you've never been in the street. The last street fight I got into where I boxed was, I think I was young. I was like 19, right? The guy was like 21 or 22. Claimed he was from Boston. Claimed he had won a Golden Gloves when he was a kid, and I was always making fun of him, like, like, cause he was a kid, right? Like that doesn't change. It changes when you become an adult, you know? Cause this was a bigger guy. He was a bigger guy, or whatever. He sucker punched me. I told this story before. He sucker punched me. I beat the shit out of him, but if that was the only fight of like the last one where I felt actually threatened, only because he had claimed that he had these accolades, whether he did or didn't, right? And so getting hit with bare knuckles is completely different with gloves. Paulie knew that. He goes in there, gets his face just completely obliterated. He looks like, if you've ever seen The Punisher, he looks like Jigsaw now, right? He looks like he got put through in a big garbage can glass recycler. That's what he looks like. And again, when we talk about seeking advice from just nobodies, whoever told him yes, I mean, he did it for the money, you know, so hopefully he got paid. But he literally kept referencing his pad work on his channel. I had looked at that pad work. That type of pad work, I saw a little 4-year-old do better pad work than Paulie Malignaggi, with more thump in his punches than Paulie Malignaggi's. Now, I'm not saying the little 4-year-old hit harder than Paulie Malignaggi because, you know, like, force times speed, weight times whatever it is, you know, momentum, whatever. All of that, those equations matter. So yeah, he's older and he's heavier, but that pad work was even worse than I saw from a 4-year-old, right? And it's terrible to watch a dude who was completely past it go and get his face just smashed up for nothing. Basically for nothing. Right? Because he's sitting there crying about not getting stitches in a third world country. Something like that. You should have brought your own cut, man. You know? And he's got like 3 of these left to go. You know? So it's messed up. But now we're going to talk about TKO and the Ali Act that happened, whatever it was a revision of something that happened, whatever, 1996 to 2000. When you think of that, you think of Don King, right? When that act happened, the promoter that fell off the most was a lot of them, right? And I think the biggest one that you saw kind of disappear was Don King, because yes, he was making a lot of money and promoting all these things, but these guys were getting paid a lot less than what they should have been back then, right? Their knockout cards or whatever it is. And I picked Mike Tyson as the example because everybody knows that, well, not everybody knows. So at a time you thought that he was rich and powerful, and then he goes on talking about how he was broke and like he couldn't buy anything and he didn't have access to however much money he made, and he thought he made money, but it wasn't like he didn't make any of it, right? Everything he thought was in his name was in somebody else's name. A lot of that stuff that you actually saw kind of Al Heyman do, right? But when you're talking about present time, a lot of these boxers aren't making the money that they should be earning. Now, I'm going to kind of hearken to, there's a guy called Boxing Chief who I haven't spoken to in a while, even on like Discord. He usually hangs around the BDA Discord. Boxing Chief, he talks on the show too. He's talking about how is it that these fighters are making so much money and they're not selling out their shows, right? And it has to do with the network contracts, right? And I should have been more prepared for this video because I do have the materials for it, but I just turned on the mic and just started ranting. Right now, ESPN was making $90 million a year off of their contract with, or Top Rank was making $90 million a year off their contract with ESPN. Their pay for the fighters was really shitty, right? And so even though you looked at the pay of those fighters and you were saying, wow, they're getting paid $3 million in these shows. I'm talking about Shaker Stevens, right? He's getting paid $3 million a show, and all of his fights they're giving away all the tickets away as complimentary free tickets, right? To make the crowd look big for TV. You know, it costs $2 million just to even set it up or whatever. You take his cut into that whole network deal in which ESPN gambles on Top Rank. That's why they give the money to them, right? Because what it really was Anthony Joshua. They wanted that Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua money. That's all it was, right? So they gave him that money, they gambled on it, thinking they would get back whatever it was. But when you look at that deal, a lot of those guys, even if you said Terrence Crawford was getting paid $4 million, even though he couldn't sell out a backyard barbecue, he was getting paid a lot less than he should have been. And there was a lot of people that knew that from whatever it was, because that was the only guy that Top Rank had, other than the guys from MTK Global, mainly known as Tyson Fury and whoever that guy was, the Scottish guy, right? 140-pound undisputed guy. So you paid those guys whatever. Tyson Fury got what, 40 million? That's 40 out of the 90. You still got to put like 20 into like the production, whatever it is, which leaves, 40 left to divide or whatever, and the promoter takes half of that, right? And then they whatever it is, I don't know, I'm just speculating on how they split the money, but definitely, like, we laughed at Crawford or whatever it was for saying that he was getting underpaid, but he knew the financials, and I think he knew that he was being underpaid, right? But you're looking at actually trying to make money without a network deal. It comes to the point where it's like you have like a Golovkin versus Lemieux, right? In which they sold that pay-per-view pretty much on their own without a deal, and they broke whatever. They surpassed the amount of money that needed to go to the fighters, which made it successful, but they point to the numbers, the low numbers, 150,000 pay-per-view sold or whatever, and they laugh, but that was like real earnings, right? And so when you're looking at some of these fighters who are no longer under the promotion of a big network deal, Top Rank, Premier Boxing Champions, those are the only two guys, Golden Boy, right? When you're putting on a show, like, and you have to fight what you earned, you're not making the type of money that you believe you're trying to make, like millions of dollars. It's more like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? Which should, if you're coming from like the old school, it should be satisfactory that you're getting what you earned, even if it is $100,000, because no one else is going to pay you $100,000 to fight a bum, right? Basically what it is. But now you get Turkey, Saudi Arabia overpaying these guys way more without their network deal or whatever to fight, and they're expecting that. And so now they're stuck in this position in which they're trying to move away from that because it's burning up way too much money and making them earn their keep or whatever, right? And it does go back to the UFC model where they fucked over so many fighters in terms of money and what do you call it, like fighting a lot, right? I forget what the general term for that is, and making their own money, whatever it is. After they've built them up to be a star, they just basically take their money. And so you're looking at this promotions here. There's not going to be a lot of these guys that want to do it right now, but in the long term, they understand that these guys are going to have to do that, right? If they can't establish something like a pay-per-view for themselves or a network contract. So it's kind of fucked up because we're actually seeing like, what do you call it? The death of boxing, like the actual death. Everybody has been talking about boxing is dead, especially this last 10 years, right? Even though the amount of viewers is probably at its like all-time high since Tyson, you know, Tyson Ali. And everything was kind of like the 1996, right? Like the Ali going to the Atlanta Olympics and he was shaking and all of that stuff. And people just kind of quit out of all fight sports because it really wasn't worth it monetarily. But we're probably not going to see another actual superstar for a very, very long time. A lot of it's going to be manufactured, right? You have a league like that, you can literally just match make and just sell that. Basically, you're looking at someone like Jaron Ennis who fought some guy, right? So we're going to recap Jaron Ennis versus Lima. I didn't give a shit about that fight. However, I saw they were what do you call it? Glazing. They were glazing Lima like as an actual opponent. And on one of the thumb lines, I saw something like Lima tells Eddie Hearn, okay, if I'm that good, like sign me. Sign me to a big contract. I watched that video, right? And they're glazing up Lima like he's like just the fucking next hottest thing. And Lima starts believing his own shit. He starts believing the promotions. He's telling Eddie Hearn to sign him. Eddie Hearn's just laughing at him, right? Like, you're a fucking nobody. Because, you know, Eddie Hearn's like one of the worst, what do you call it? Like body language. Like, he's a bad liar, right? Whatever it is. He's just laughing off Lima. And it's like, at that point, you didn't know what was Lima. So, I mean, for those that can't read the body language, the very, very easily readable body language of Eddie Hearn, right? They go to the videos and Lima's hitting the heavy bag. He's hitting it with power. He's hitting it with thump. You're like, ooh, 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 ooh. He's hitting the mats. He's looking good. Where's all the fight film, right? You look at the fight film. The guy was a bum. Like, I said he was a D- level fighter. I didn't say that. I'm not on stream, right? I said it on Sean Newton stream, maybe before the fight happened. I said Lima was a D- level fighter. He'll last about 3 rounds. He didn't even last one. He was an F level fighter because the film, in comparison to his mitt work or whatever it is, was terrible. You know, he couldn't fight. He wasn't a fighter. Most people can get off the couch and beat Lima. That's how bad he was, right? Even if, like, they had fight footage of him fighting, like, beating up a little Pakistani dude that was, you know, 40 pounds lighter, whatever it is, you know. Most people would be able to get off the couch and beat Lima. But, you know, he had the looks. He looked like an action figure. And, you know, his workout looked good enough for them to just trick people into buying that. But again, you're looking at Ennis and, like, hard to say what he's even making if it was legitimate, right? If he wasn't signed under this contract or whatever it is. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for boxing. And it's going to be tough for the viewers who have to watch it, right? Because, one, like, you really aren't going to get another superstar like a Mayweather or a Tyson or I mean, you know, I was going to name off a bunch of names, but I just stopped. It's going to be tough, man. It's going to be like basically UFC, where you just have a bunch of guys that are just, you know, whenever somebody's about to hit it big time and they want to make their own shot, they call their own shots, Dana White will have the guy sitting in the back burners to beat him. You know? And I've said this many times before about the UFC. They have this guy that they glaze up, but as soon as he wants more money or his contract is up, in which they no longer want to pay him, they already have the perfect guy to just give him a loss and then have them renegotiate a smaller contract, right? Which you look like even like Pereira, where he almost retired because his name value would still bring in whatever it was that he was making for the UFC, but they started to dictate the terms because they had brought in this guy to manufacture a loss for him. Right now, I don't remember what I reviewed for it. I think I said that Pereira beat Ankleev 3-2. I think that's what I said, and it could have been a draw, but he should not have lost that championship. But they were just glazing this guy, right? Because Pereira tripped from like the southpaw to orthodox stance, and they said that he was hurt or whatever it was. But that was the round he won. I don't remember. I think I watched it one time, right? So they're gonna have this promotion set up. It's gonna be fucking rigged and fake, right? Let's just be honest. They'll rig it whenever they want. That's what it is. Whether it's from matchmaking or just money, right? Thanks for watching.